Welcome to Behind the Badge. This podcast aims to improve the health and well-being of frontline workers. Each episode features candid conversations with former and current frontline community members and subject matter experts. Join us as we explore the unique nature of serving in high-risk roles, sharing inspiring stories of resilience, strategies, and resources. We are not qualified health professionals, nor are we aligned with any organization. The opinions expressed in the podcast are solely our own. Additionally, the content may evoke strong emotional responses for some. Listener discretion is advised.
G'day everyone. Before we get into today's episode, just a quick ask. If you're enjoying Behind the Badge, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a rating, or write a quick review on whatever platform you're listening. It really does help us reach more listeners and keep sharing these important stories and messages. Now, on to today's episode. Today's guest is someone who's walked a path that many talk about, but few live through and come back with this kind of clarity. Tom Brown grew up in Sydney's eastern suburbs, chasing belonging, testing limits, and figuring things out the hard way. From a volatile home life to chasing the identity that comes with wearing a uniform, Tom eventually found himself deployed to Afghanistan and later serving in special forces. This isn't just a story about combat. It's about the search for purpose, the weight of expectation, and what happens when the war doesn't give you what you came for. In part one of this two-part series, we dive into Tom's early life, his time in the military, and the mental and emotional toll it followed. It's raw, it's honest, it's unfiltered. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Tom Brown.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate you sharing your time with us.
And your space.
Mate, what we normally like to do is go to the start of your timeline. So if you can run us through maybe a bit of your upbringing and then lead into your service life.
Yeah, sweet. All right. So, so I grew up in eastern suburbs of Sydney. So, I started Bondi for the first 5 years. I think that when I was about 5, we moved to Clovelly. It's like a couple of beaches south. So, childhood was good in that sense, man. I was just at the beach all the time, outdoors, riding bikes around, slingshots, pretend to shoot things, and, all that sort of shit that you do when you're destined to join the army someday. Yeah. All that boyish kind of stuff. And then, lived in Clovelly, man, for the rest of the time. And I went to rugby school, but wasn't a big rugby dude. Classic, Tom doesn't apply himself, wants to be the class clown. That's that sort of shit.
I think that's most of us, right?
Exactly, mate.
Most of our report cards probably read fairly similar.
Yeah, Tom has potential, but doesn't apply himself. Yeah. It's interesting, that's what Soggy normally says, that's just the standard for us, our kind of ilk, I guess. Yep. But yeah, I was no different, man. And then, I used to surf heaps. I wasn't, because I went to a big rugby school, and there was a big surf culture, I really wasn't quite into either of those things. So I used to sort of jump around a little bit, just from social group to social group. So I used to hang with the skatey dudes, who were like the arty guys / the sort of stonery dudes as well.
And by art, you mean like graffiti?
No. That was, I think the surf dudes were like the graffiti dudes. But I'd sort of group hop, so I'd try to do a bit of surfing, but I wasn't the best at it. Didn't kind of quite fit into that group. And then same with the skate art, pothead kind of dudes. I was into all that, but not particularly good. And then, I wasn't really hanging with the rugby dudes, but I used to play a little bit. But I was, again, pretty average, man. So, yeah, I was always I think I was a bit of a misfit when I was a kid. I think I still kind of am, eh?
Yep.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it later, man, but I make a big distinction between community and connection. I thought I was looking for community back then. I thought I wanted a group to fit in.
Yep.
But I really just want to find people like me. Fucking psychopaths. you know what I mean? People just with that drive to want to go and do something different, that are a bit out there, that kind of creative type. So I think I was always looking for who the fuck I was and where I fit in when I was a kid like that. And then at the same time, whilst I did live in this beautiful place, Clovelly and Bondi, and, you know, was still working out who I was, like all young dudes do, family life was pretty violent at home with my dad. He was, his old man walked out on him when he was about 13, living in Fairfield, West Sydney. So, you know, from his formative years becoming a man, he didn't have much male guidance or much to look up to. So he was, you know, I guess being thrust into fatherhood with 4 kids, because I'm one of 4, was probably quite a challenging thing for him to work out, you know, the years of trauma and neglect or whatever it was that he went through, and then having to have your own 4 kids, then all the normal stress that entails, let alone all the shit that you're dealing with in your head. So yeah, he was a bit of an angry man back then, pretty violent. But it's funny, I only mentioned this the other day on a podcast, that I never considered that I actually grew up in a house with domestic violence.
It was just like a norm, sort of. Is that why? Or
I honestly, for years and years and years, thought it was normal. Honestly, I think it was until I was an adult, like in my 20s, that I realised that that's not what happens in an average house. Because I don't know what it was. I just thought it was the thing. Like, I never, went to school and was like, oh, did your fucking dad built you around all weekend? Like, yeah, no. I don't know. I was like, yeah, that's just what it is, I guess.
I guess growing up, you just normalise whatever's around you, whether it's good, bad or indifferent, that's your reality.
Yeah,
and you just live it and make it normal.
Yeah, it's funny. And when you're talking about, I don't know if you guys are into psych stuff, but like adaptive schemas in the psychology world, it's all about like the different modes of learning and whatnot from when you're a child. And I think, going through what I went through and then having my own modalities to adapt and turn into who I am now, I didn't understand all of that. So I didn't understand the impact of what I went through when I was a kid. So obviously when I'm trying to fit in at school, I'm like, oh, why am I a little bit different to the other kids, and I think now that's probably part of it. I just didn't realise how different my childhood, my home life was to probably most other kids. Yeah.
With your 3 other siblings, where did you fit in terms of like your age? Oldest, youngest, middle?
Second. So I had older sister, that's me, younger brother, younger sister.
Yeah, okay. So even in, like, with your dad being the way that he was during your upbringing, you sort of didn't have like an older brother to lean on or sort of help guide you through that either?
Nah, I think I was that thing. To a degree. I mean, my older sister copped a bit, but not that much. I think my younger brother probably more, because he was really, like super defiant.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he missed some of those cues that he needed to look for to avoid that kind of thing. And please don't get me wrong, like, my dad's not a bad guy. He just was a guy that he just had his shit going on, man. Like, fucking growing up and then like born in the 40s, born in the 40s, growing up 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s before he had us, all that old school shit, no dad. And then, raising 4 kids in the 90s, I think he did reasonably well for what he was. And he was also he was a very loving dad. He loved me to bits. Like, I've got other great memories from my dad, like reading stories, and, now I go through stuff with my daughters and sing a nursery rhyme, and I'm like, oh fuck, I never
had that.
No, I had it, but I was like, I remember when my dad used to do that one. But I never, I'd never thought about it until I was put into context where I had to think about it.
Yeah.
So, and I still love my dad to bits. Like, we still talk. There's no love lost there.
Yep.
He's still got a relationship with his granddaughters.
I was going to say, how's that relationship with the grandkids? Is that switch from father now grandfather? Like, do you notice a difference?
Yeah, big difference. Yeah. I mean, my older sister moved out of home in 2006. I moved out 2007, thereabout-ish. And then by that stage, we were all adults, all us kids, you know what I mean? So my dad, I think he probably went through some stuff to go and fix himself and get help and whatever he needed to do. So he was a very different dude even by then. You know what I mean? Like, so that violence, I think, only lasted until I was about, I don't know, 17, 18, something like that.
Yep.
So like 2005, 6, 7, thereabout. So him as a man changed a lot during that time, and I've gone off and joined the army or whatever. So our relationship changed. So, you know, it was a slow one, but now I watch him with my daughters, and I'm like, oh, and I've reflected on this a lot. It's so interesting watching my dad interact with my daughters as a completely different dude. You know what I mean? Like, and we went out to dinner like a few months ago with my parents and, you know, my family, and my older daughter. I don't say the names on the socials, by the way, just in case that ever pops up again. But my older daughter, we went to leave because they were going to get in their car. We were going to get in our car. And we were like, all right, bye, you know, Nana and Granddad. And my older daughter was like, no, like crying, screaming, I want to go with Nana and Granddad. And it was such an interesting thing to watch because I'm like, and it was one of those moments where it was like a not sliding doors, but just one of those moments where things were a bit clearer. And I was like, her relationship with my parents is so removed from what mine is. My experience with them doesn't matter, you know, like, and I don't want to get in the way of that either. So when it comes to things like forgiveness and whatnot, moving on, that was and this is only like recently, you know, I've been through the whole rigmarole of forgiveness and whatnot for years, but that was a really, really big thing for me to see and go, oh man, like that hit home more than probably anything else, you know, watching them interact like that. And I'm like, she doesn't see them the way I do. She doesn't have that history. She just loves Nana and Granddad. So it was nice, man. Yeah. It was good. It was a good thing to watch.
And I had this similar conversation with my daughter. My father was a hard worker, owned business, hardly ever saw him. He'd come home, he'd be in bed, we'd be awake, vice versa. You'd never see him. And then I watched him with my daughter and my sister's daughter and son, and I said to my daughter once, you don't know how lucky you've got it. You've got Pop. Like, I never had that. Yeah. And I said, I love it. Don't get me wrong. Different relationship, but you've got the best of Pop. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a massive shift for me.
And how old's your daughter when you had this conversation?
So she would have been, I'd say 9 or 10.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Because my older daughter's 3, so
yeah.
I don't... There's no comprehension of that, you know. So maybe I'll have that conversation with her one day. Maybe I won't. But I don't know. It was just an interesting paradigm shift, you know. I was like, that's not Dad. That's not Dad that grew up with me in the 90s. That's Poppy. Yeah. You know, loves it a bit and just wants to, you know, whatever the fuck they do, like watch the TV show, go for a walk, or like, you know, feed my dog or whatever. Like, so different, but a good thing. I think I needed to see it. Yeah. Even though I'd already got to that place of forgiveness and whatnot a long time ago, it was good to see that again because it really cemented. I'm like, nah, you're doing the right thing. It'd be like, you know, going through a divorce and you watch, you know, parents, you know, having that negative impact on the kids because they fucking hate each other. The kids don't win in that situation, so it just made me go, yeah, I've made the right choice.
Yeah, putting your relationship aside and allowing your daughter and your dad to have that relationship.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. There's no need for me to pollute that. No need for me to hold on to resentment or, you know, I've done that. You know, I did that years ago, man. You know, but no, it was good, man. It was nice. It was healthy.
Yeah, nice. Back to young Tom Brown. Did you end up finishing school?
I did. Yeah, I tried to finish in year 10. So in Sydney, that was the school certificate, like the minimum. And I was trying to leave. I don't know what I was trying to do. I think I just wanted to get out and leave. And my dad was like, you know, stay, get your HSC, etc. So the next couple of years. But in that time, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I just wanted to leave school. Maybe because I didn't fit in, I don't remember. But he's like, you got to do something, you know, get a trade, or I think he said, you know, join the Fireys or join the army. And I think that, like, because I was a student of history, man, I love history, especially war history, because his dad was in the war, you know, all the popular media stuff, like all the war movies and whatever, and, you know, everyone loves the World War II stuff, right? I was right into it, so I think the army and then my love of history, military history, just kind of gelled in that moment, and I was like, oh, fuck, you can do that? Fucking be an army guy, you know, like I can go off and be the thing, these people that I admired, and I can have these experiences that I've always been jealous of. So yeah, that was like the thing that sort of cemented me joining the army to start. But then he was like, well, if you want to go and do, because I just, you know, locked onto commandos pretty early. So it was like, if you've got to go and do that, you've got to get your high school certificate. So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I just stayed and then got it. And I'm glad I did, because I needed it later on. And I think my life would have been completely different if I'd got out then, you know. Maybe I did get a trade, or, you know, join the Fireys, and I would have had a great career and lived a great life, maybe. Damn it.
So you stayed high school certificates. Is year 12?
Year 12, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So started 2000 and finished 2006.
Yeah, cool. And how long past finishing your HSC until you rocked into Defence Force recruiting?
So I ended up getting into a relationship just after school. So I think it was, it would have been maybe early 2007. Yeah, early 2007. So just after leaving school, I got into a relationship with a childhood friend's cousin, who was then also a family friend. So because that relationship was quite new, I was like, well, I don't want to go full time, because what if I got to get posted away or whatever? And I was a young bloke, so I was just, you know, trying to be comfortable and convenient. So I just joined the reserves to start, did the training stuff or whatever, and then came back to sort of stay in that relationship. So I left 2006, and then in September 2007, I enlisted. Yeah. But I'd been to Europe, actually, before then. It was it wasn't before then, because it was the Chocos. I had a bit of a gap before I went off to Kapuka, so I went over to Europe in the Christmas break for like 7 weeks, just backpacking with a couple of mates. And, man.
Good times.
Yeah, I still reckon that was one of the best times of my life ever. Just pure freedom. Just exploring a continent on foot with your two best mates, doing whatever the fuck you want.
And very close to zero responsibility.
Pretty much, yeah.
Just living your best life in Europe.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, and totally reckless, you know, obviously just, you know, running around St. Pierce and, like, you know, getting the occasional fights or whatever, and, you know, looking at trains like a fucking train person. Looking at maps and shit to try and get trains to the next place. And I remember in Switzerland, we were in Zurich, I think it was, and my mate was on the train with all our bags, like everything. Fucking passports, everything, and he was like, I'll keep an eye on the bags in this carriage, and we went to get a fucking pizza or something. I mean, this other mate ran off, took ages getting this pizza, hands down, best pizza I've ever had in my life, ever. Like a hole in the wall at a fucking train station pizza, right? No, it was Rome, sorry, it was Rome, because we're going south. And then, we came back on the fucking train. We watched the train leave, like, it was crossing the border too. So it was, it was like gear, passports, fucking ID, money, everything. So we end up getting on the next train and going over, no passports, no ID, no money, nothing. Crossed the border, and the Italian. No, sorry, it was in Switzerland. We're going to Italy, and the Italian police got on at the border with like little MP5 submachine guns. I still remember it. I was like, oh, fuck, I think we fucked up. And they were just randomly questioning people, and we just got missed, so we're all good. We just crossed the border and went down to Italy, and that's where we had the pizza, in Italy. Yep. Yeah. But, just reckless, young, living life, free. It's fucking awesome, man.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
It's like I always try to recommend to people before they go to the army or whatever job. I'm like,
get out there. Dude,
live life. Like, stay single for a bit. Do that part of your life. Get that shit out of your way. Not that it ever gets out of your way, but go and explore the planet, get some experience. Because we all want to go and do the cool shit straight away. And, you know, like no one likes to get told, you have to grow up first, or we need a bit more maturity or experience. You're like, but I want to do it now.
Go and have some fun.
Oh, 100%. There's a whole fucking planet to explore, man. There's so much more going on this planet than your local beach or whatever, you know. So. And
I suppose, like, as you move through life, it just, in some respects, it does get easier, but in a lot of respects, it gets harder to do that as more and more responsibility comes onto you. You probably, you know, in those early years, it's probably much easier to escape for.
Oh, mate, you're probably still getting money from your parents, you know, if you, I don't know if I was, but think I worked at Kmart, you know what I mean? And I was saving up a bit of money from Kmart. So yeah, there's no like career you got to come back to. Like, yeah, I was in a relationship, but it was very early, so I didn't feel that need to like not leave her behind, and you know, no kids, all that type of shit. So, and I've been back to Europe a couple of times since. Been back with the family, eldest daughter, and it is different, and it's harder, but you can still do it. Yeah. It's funny because like we're adults, you can do what the fuck you want, do whatever you want.
Oh, mate. So, back from Europe, but you said you'd already done Kapuka for Chocks.
No, I hadn't. No. So there was a gap in there before I went. So I was still parading at that reserve unit, doing training and whatever as much as I could with what I had. But again, you know, it comes down to who I was back then and maturity levels and whatnot. I didn't tell them about it that I was going, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, we got XYZ on next week," and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, sir, I'm actually going to be in Europe." And it's like,
I won't be here for that.
You're gonna be what? Like I didn't know to put in leave, to even tell anyone. I was like, I just do what the fuck I want. You know? Yeah, I'd love to say that I've lost that mentality, but I have not.
So, how long after getting back did you then go and get into it proper?
Oh, it's like a couple of months, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Got back, did the training and whatnot. And then at the end of 2008, I transferred to Regs, and then I got posted to Singleton, so the School of Infantry, as like a dog's body, general duties kind of guy, just helping out with playing enemy party and supplement the training for the recruits and whatnot. And then did that for about a year. It was a bit of like an eat a dick posting, you know, like do this one and then we'll post you where you want. So I obviously chose to stay in Sydney, went to 3rd Battalion and went there in 2010. Yeah, that was a good place to be, man.
Yep.
Good infantry battalion. But again, you know, I was a bit of a young bloke, didn't have a lot of understanding of a lot of the sacrifices you need to make, and that you're totally at the mercy of that organisation. So when some of those things did come along, like, hey, we've got this exercise coming up, or we've got to go and do this course, we're going to go up to fucking Townsville or whatever. Man, that was like, it was not, I did not enjoy that part of it. You know, having to go away and do what they wanted me to do. I've never been good at that. I never got good at it.
The, you know, your previous comment, like, oh, I like doing whatever the fuck I want, and I'm still the same.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really gel with the whole army thing and being told what to do and when to do it.
Nah, it doesn't, man. Nah. And I got into trouble, and it's a miracle that I never got charged in my military career, ever.
That's it.
Ever. Yeah. And I rocked up to work drunk a bunch of times. Like, I've gone AWOL a few times. I've disobeyed direct orders. I've, you know, done silly things with equipment that I shouldn't have, and yeah, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I never got charged, ever. Got in plenty of trouble, don't get me wrong, but never got charged, ever.
Lucky.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Total miracle, man. But like, mate, I've never been one for the bullshit, for the empty gestures, the stuff like the painting rocks and that, you know, seemingly senseless military discipline that they try to instill in you. I just never understood. Like, I understand in concept, but I've never really agreed with a lot of that stuff. Because I don't know, I just like to do things my way. I like to learn my way. I like to do it my way. If I don't want to do it, then I don't want to fucking do it. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a thing in my life, actually.
And obviously, you know, the military is so structured and so rigid in the way that it does those things. And obviously that didn't have an effect on you. You're still the same way. You still enjoy doing your way.
Yep, I'd say so. Yeah, that's why I started this business. You know, why I did it all myself, because there was another company was making the gear, and you know, there was little things that I couldn't control that I didn't like or whatever. So I was like, well, instead of fixing these little things, I'll just burn the whole fucking thing to the ground, and then build it from the bottom up myself, my way. So that's just kind of what I did. So I don't know, man. I've just kind of always wanted to do things my way. And
do you reckon that limited you in defence at all? Like, did you reckon there was any opportunities you missed or anything like that because of, I don't know, that sort of mentality that you had?
I think it was probably somewhat endearing in the sense that people knew that I wanted to do I wanted to do like the real stuff. I wanted to do the good stuff, and I wasn't into that bullshit. Definitely would have put a few people offside. In terms of losing opportunities, I think I was probably quite lucky that I've always had reasonably good subunit commanders and like team leaders that have always kind of known who I am, the kind of guy that I am, and have always kind of played to my strengths, and nobody, at least not in a serious way, has ever tried to just shove me in the box and be like, you know, you've got to fucking operate in these parameters to stay in the box, and that's where you go. I've not had a lot of that. I've been pretty lucky in that sense. Nice. Yeah.
So 3 RAR
battalion
in 2010. How long did you spend there? Because they moved not long after that up to Townsville.
Yep. So they were airborne back then. I just, by a series of varying different circumstances, I never got on a paracourse when I was in 3, but into 2011, early 2012, we moved up to Townsville. So that was for the whole 3rd Brigade, so 1, 2 and 3 RAR to be together in Townsville on Laverack. And then we had a deployment coming up in 2012 to Afghanistan, so they were rotating through the battalions back then. And there was one coming up for us, so I was like, well, I'll give that a fucking crack. And then, moved to Townsville, and I think it was fairly early. It was about mid-year. We went over to the GAN, so we went up to the Townsville, spent a few months there, pre-training, getting battalion sorted, all that type of stuff, and then, deployed mid-2012.
How long was that deployment?
6 months for that one.
Yep. And
5.5, I think, something like that.
Yeah, rightio. And whereabouts were you, and what was your role?
So there was 4 task groups. So with the mentoring task force, and there was 4 like company level groups. I was mentoring team Delta, so the 4th, and we were what's called like the guys from support company. So back in the battalions, Alpha Bravo Charlie, and then support company. So that's like your recon, snipers, mortars, SIGs, and there was maybe engineers, I think it was, heavy weapons. So because I was in mortars before we left, it was all us support company guys. So we were in MT Delta, and we went to the Chora Valley. So obviously Uruzgan province, you've got Tarankot's the main base, the former Dutch one. By the time I got there weren't any more Dutch there, I don't think, or it wasn't being run by them. And then if you go north from Tarankot up the Dorfshan, Dorfshan, through Dorfshan, Baluchi Valley, through the Baluchi Pass, which is like a little, where the valley converges on itself to like a little, I think they call it a Winthrop point, I think, like a
vulnerable point,
yeah, like a very narrow corridor, a lot of ambushes and stuff through there. You go through there, and then you end up in the Chora Valley, and that's where I was, up Chora.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
How did that go? How did the 6 months go for you?
It was alright, man. Yeah, it was alright. It was, I mean, a couple of years earlier, in 2010, the Brisbane guys, so 6 RAR guys, had a pretty big trip and lost a few guys. That was MTF1, I think that was, MTF1. And they lost a heap of guys to like IEDs, a few in gunfights, that type of stuff. So I think after that trip, I don't think the government or the military was particularly fond of getting the infantry guys very heavily involved in the fighting, because it doesn't look very palatable to the public when you've got young infantry guys coming home in body bags, like I think that they accept that the special operations guys go and do it. They're the big, scary, tough guys, and that's what they signed up for. But, young-looking infantry guys, it looks a bit different, and the feel is a bit different, I think. So they really pulled the infantry back a lot. So that trip was interesting, and I got to do lots of stuff and have lots of good exposures, but it was frustrating at the same time because I wanted to do more, always wanted to do more. And I was in mortars as well, so I was part of the base defence plan of this little, it was like 100 metres by 100 metres base, tiny little base. So a lot of the time I was restricted to the base and couldn't go on patrols, but I was just a pest, man, always trying to get out as much as I could, carry gear or go up doing OPs with snipers or, fucking security for platoon headquarters, whatever it was. I'd do anything and everything I could to get out. And sometimes I'd just go out driving a vehicle or whatever, and sometimes foot patrols. But it was a good trip, but it was frustrating. So it was like a nice, gentle intro to war. You know, I got to see a few things and do a few things, but it never scratched the itch that I had for like wanting to prove myself.
Sorry to interrupt, but was that sort of coinciding with a bit of a drawdown too?
I think we were the last guys out in the patrol bases.
Yeah, okay.
I think after my trip, they pulled everybody back to TK because they were doing this big handover with the Afghan National Army, which went well in the end, I think. Oh, wait, no, it went terribly, sorry. Fucking horribly. Yeah, which was a shock to everybody who's been to Afghanistan and worked with the National Army. We were just as shocked as everybody else. No, anyone that's ever fucking worked over there could have told you that in 2 minutes. They're like, oh, really? 2 weeks? Oh, fuck. Much longer than I thought. But, there was a big push to, like, hand everything over back to the Afghan Army. And I think even the SF guys at that time had, like, quotas for missions. You know, it's like ratios, like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 Afghan versus Aussie kind of thing.
Yep.
They want those guys to be leading, planning. It was the same for us, man. We had to have certain like ratios of us to them. But at the same time, there were a few inside attacks. So like the guys who were training killed some of our guys, and they did that the year before I was there, 2011. There was 3 guys. I think even the year before that, there was at least one. So Jonesy was a cook.
Yep.
And I remember I stood in the spot where he got shot in this another patrol base just south of where I was, because we moved around a little bit sometimes. Yeah, and it was just not, I wouldn't even say eerie. It was just fascinating to know that the dude I'd seen on the news years before, like right there, that's where the guy got killed. And then even like out the front of the base, you know, there's another guy called Nathan Buse that got killed just out the front. So it was always a bit interesting and weird to know that guys had been killed in that part of the world that I was in. You know, it's accurate to within 10 metres of where I was standing.
It's surreal.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And even on our trip, we lost some guys as well. Like, there was another insider attack, and we lost 3 of our guys, not immediately where I was, but just further south of where I was. It was an insider attack. This guy called Hekmatullah came out at night and just shot up, I think just mag dumped a few guys, killed 3 of them, hit a few more. A couple mates of mine were like right there. And then me and some other guys, we went down there to sort of supplement them after that. And that in itself, again, was another sort of surreal-ish moment, I guess, because as soon as we got there, I remember some of those guys' gear was still there, you know, had their names on it. I remember one of the guys, it was, his name was Milosevic. Damn, I should fucking know that. Milosevic. Anyway, his sleeping bag. I remember seeing his sleeping bag there, and it said Milo on it. And it was his, and I think whether somebody had kept it or they were using it or they hadn't got rid of it or whatever it was only within like a few days after, or a couple of days after, that we went down. So just to see that, and then those guys that were there that had treated them and stuff, and there was a couple of dudes you could see immediately. You're like, oh man, that's gonna hang around for a long time. So yeah, that was interesting as well, you know. Yeah.
At what point in the trip did that event happen? Like, was it sort of start, middle, end?
It's probably, it might have been like 2/3 of the way. It was in August.
Yeah, okay.
I think it was like late August.
Obviously, that threat was there because, you know, as you said, it had happened multiple occasions on previous trips. But once that happened, did that change sort of the posture or the attitude towards
big time
the people you were working with, you know, the Afghan National Army, and then also like I guess the task force as a whole, how they sort of viewed and did things? Yeah,
big time. Yeah, so we lived in our own compound, that little, you know, 100 by 100, and then like attached, adjacent to that was their compound. And, you know, there would be a thoroughfare between the two. They'd mostly stick to theirs, we'd mostly stick to ours. You know, sometimes we'd have common meals or whatever. But yeah, like our security posture picked up a lot. So we were always, you know, like you always kind of knew there was that threat. And even early in the trip, I knew that, like doing some joint stuff with a couple of their guys. And I think early in the trip, we were guarding some prisoners, and, it'd be like one of us and one of them with these prisoners. And they're always saying, talking about shooting them and, like all this, playing with their weapons, this terrible trigger discipline stuff. So there was always this element of like, you got to keep an eye on these guys because they're either going to want to kill you, they're going to do some wild shit, and you're going to get dragged into it, or just purely through incompetence, you might get fucking killed, And that, mate, there was even that same base that I said that the cook had been killed in the corner near the sentry post, and that other guy at the front, that was patrol base Mishal, or Cop Mishal combat outpost. We got some prisoners in there at one point as well, and I remember walking into the bathroom one day, the showers, and they had one of the dudes in there on a chair, like with the wires, like electrocuting the dude. I don't know how effective they were.
Hooked up to a car battery.
Yeah, maybe it was, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I'm not an electrician, but maybe it wasn't that powerful, but it might have just been like, putting your tongue in like a 9-volt battery, but they were trying to electrocute this dude.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't think, I didn't give too much of a shit, but I was like, I better go and tell someone. So I told my dude, and they went over and confronted the guy, and they were like, hey, fuck off, we're doing this.
Wow.
And our guys were like, oh, okay. You just got to let them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because then if you don't, maybe that's when they fucking shoot you, or there's more conflict there. And it's their war too, they'll prosecute it the way that they're going to do it.
I guess it's a delicate relationship to maintain. Like you said, you don't want that to be the catalyst for them to start turn around and the breakdown of the relationship. And
yeah. And there's all sorts of stuff like that, mate. Like they were always trying to look up porn and things, and we're always told, like, oh, don't talk about this and don't talk about that because they're Muslims, and we don't want to offend them and this and that. Mate, they were showing us like animal porn, and some were into the kiddie porn. They what do they fuck on the Thursdays? I know I could be totally butchering this, but I think their Friday is the equivalent of like our sort of Sunday. You can repent on the Sunday. I think that's their Friday. So the Thursday night, I think they go and get up to all sorts of debaucherous stuff, and they've got that sort of male domination thing going on where they dominate their subordinates, and they'll fuck each other and little boys and all that type of stuff that we don't think about or like to talk about or look at. They do that stuff, man. And I remember, I think it was my auntie or someone, I mentioned it, and she fully just dismissed me like I was making it up, like it was some rumour that I'd heard or that I was perpetuating some sort of mythical stereotype. And I was like, no, it's real.
It's a thing.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
Every Thursday, they're all the little boys got their makeup on, and
they call them chai boys. I think there's another name for it. I forgot what it is, but they put makeup on them, they make them dance and stuff, and I think sometimes I don't think they put girls' clothes on them, but they put like this really sort of heavy eye shadow on them, and I think they put glitter and stuff on them and do their hair up and whatnot. But it's a real thing. And then they do it for some of the older guys too, and some of them are into it. They might just be a gay dude, or maybe it's just a cultural thing, but just be a bloke like us, wearing the eye makeup and really kind of effeminate looking, and
it's a big culture shock as well for like a young dig. Like, how old were you when you were there?
It's 23.
Yeah, there you go. And like you said, it's just not a lot of these concepts and a lot of these things are just not in our world where we live, because it's just not the done thing, obviously.
Yeah.
And then to go and see that and be exposed to that, but then also not being able to do anything about that. Yeah. Is a tricky thing to probably wrestle with as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's culturally there's a lot of that's like partly there's a bit of cultural stuff you kind of got to get over, and then also the fact that there's a war going on, so sometimes those two things blend. So like before we got there was a child suicide bomber right at the front of the base, and I think, mate, he was like 8 years old, or 12. And I watched the footage and stuff, and this little kid just walks out in the middle of the road, puts I don't know if he clacked himself off or they did it, but made a mess. And then even on my trip, I think we had a couple of kids come in, but I just remember one of them, and I didn't do any treating, but I saw him going in and I saw him coming out. I think what happened was that he had some sort of head injury, and the guys were treating more. He was young, man. I'm talking like my daughter's age, maybe my older daughter's maybe younger, maybe like 2. And I haven't looked at the pics since then, and I won't because I don't need to and I don't want to. And it didn't bother me at the time, and it still doesn't bother me now, so I'm not going to fucking dig it up. But I remember he was young, like about 2, thereabout. And I think he had a head injury, but I think what we found out later was that they caved his head in with a rock or something because they knew that they could get him onto our base and have a look around and look at the facilities and whatnot and get some sort of idea about what was going on. And I'm not sure if that had been confirmed or not, but that's just what I heard after that. That's what they were doing. So sometimes little things like that happened, and you'd sort of like. It's one thing that there's a war going on and people shoot each other and whatnot, but it's another thing to, sacrifice a child in the name of some sort of reconnaissance thing. So, every now and then those two things would blend, and I'm kind of like, the fact that there's a war on that's no excuse for that either. So,
I guess
there's lots to reconcile there.
I guess the training that you get is for the war portion of it. You get the training for the firefights, for the IEDs, for that sort of stuff. It's incredibly hard to train for or prepare yourself for the actions of another human to do that to a kid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think, one, you're sort of expecting one. Those other events are maybe not on your radar. Maybe you're not expecting to encounter those sort of experiences. Yeah.
Well, interesting you say that, I think. And, I had some emotion toward a few things on that deployment, particularly when we lost those guys. I had a lot of emotion about that for a little while. But I think because I couldn't reconcile it and because it was unexpected. But some of the other stuff, I was kind of like, well, I knew it's a war. I knew that we might see some dead people or, injuries or whatnot, and maybe I'll be killed. But, for some reason, when our guys got killed, I wasn't prepared for that. I don't know why. I hadn't thought about it. But that type of stuff, I think I was prepared for it because I was I kind of knew that.
That's their makeup. And
yeah, to a degree, yeah. Like, I'd spoken to guys who'd been over there and whatnot. I had a vague, cursory understanding of what would go on over there. But I don't know, for some reason when I saw it, it didn't shock me. It never sort of stayed with me, at least not consciously.
Yep.
I still remember it, but like, even when I talk about it now, I'm sure if I dug deep down, there'd be some emotion in there somewhere. But right now, I just don't feel it. You know what I mean? I think I processed it okay. I was just like, well, I knew I was going to see it. So when I saw it, it was, it was all right. I think the only time I was ever like shocked by anything was the first time there was an IED that went off, and it was I think it was in the market just out the front of our base. And I was on the laptop, and there was this big sort of concussion that went through the whole base. And I was sitting there, and the room I was in kind of shook a little bit. And I had my headphones on, and I was like, took them off. I was like, what the fuck was that? And we went outside, and there was smoke coming up, and there was a bunch of wounded guys coming in. And then the first guy that came in, or one of the first guys that came in, had no legs, but he'd already lost them. Like the previous year. So he had these like patched up fixed legs, and I was like, I didn't know this, there wasn't, they're not like giving you his medical history. And so me and a couple of guys carried this guy in, but he'd also been fragged by this thing. So his face was covered in blood, and his stomach and his abdomen were covered in blood, but he had no legs. And I just remember seeing his legs, and I was like, fuck, they fucking did a good job on that dude. Like, they patched him up pretty well. But then they brought his little prosthetics in after. And I was like, man, these prosthetics, these guys are on it, Here's the prosthetics.
Damn, they're quick.
They're fucking good, man. But I just remember when I first saw that dude, and I don't know how long it would have been, but I just remember I stopped for like just a second. I went, oh, fuck. These guys actually, they want to fucking kill people. This is serious, man. This is what can happen to a human body. And it was the first time I'd really seen anything like that in real life. And I just had this moment where I was like, oh, this is actually pretty real.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, we just do whatever I got to do.
Yep.
And I wasn't a medically trained guy. I just liked to be involved in anything that happened. So I just carried the guy. Then I did a bit of a search of him, a bit of a half-assed search because somebody said to search him. Obviously, didn't have anything on him. But I remember I was patting the guy down. And again, I didn't know the extent of his injuries. And I patted down his abdomen and his chest. And he had a bunch of frag in there. And I think I must have pressed too hard. And he's gone, ugh, like that. And I just remember that noise that the guy made when I patted him down, and I'd never forget the noise.
Yeah.
Again, not that it bothered me, but it was my first experience with anything like that, and it just kind of stuck with me. I was just like, wow, this dude's like in a lot of pain, and they wanted this guy to die by ripping his body to pieces, and that's how fucking real it is, I guess. So, yeah.
Bit of a, like I said, that first experience and a bit of an eye-opener to go, this is what we're about, this is what's going down.
Yeah. And I think I was hungry for it after that. Not because I enjoyed it, and I thought it was like cool. I just wanted to have as many experiences as I possibly could. And maybe this goes back to, I'd say it goes back to childhood, especially if you maybe growing up in an environment like I did, and you probably do have a low sense of self-worth, or there's something that you think that you lack and that you can find it out there somewhere. I was like, well, having experiences and doing things, putting notches on my belt, that's what's going to add to my character and make me whatever it is that I wanted to be. So I was like, every time there's an opportunity like this, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to develop me and my experiences and my
your sense of self-worth.
Yeah, and my life resume. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, well, if this is what I got to do, I'll do it. Yeah.
Like, did you ever stop for a minute and think, I may not go home? Like, how do you process that part? Is that a fear, or is it like, well, that's what I signed up for, put it aside and keep, doing what I do? But me being non-defence, thinking the realism of this is real and I may not go home. I don't know how I would process that.
Maybe it's the same with the fireys. I don't know. I mean, you guys still have exposure to your own dangers, so you've obviously got, and you get exposed to death and injury. So I think I understood, again, like on a cognitive, conscious level, I understood that maybe I could be killed or wounded, and I saw I saw other people that happened to, but for some reason I never meshed the two together. I never, like, in my head I was like, well, I could die here, and I think somewhere in my mind I thought I was going to die in that deployment. But as a 23-year-old with an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, I had no appreciation for what that truly meant, emotionally and sort of like metaphysically, I guess. And then seeing people like that, I probably didn't have as much empathy as I do now. So I just never put those two things together and went, maybe I could die, and maybe the thing that's happening to that person could happen to me. I just think, in theory, I knew I could die, but the practical was, it doesn't happen to me, it happens to them and other people. And I think that's why when our guys got killed, it was a little bit of an eye-opener, because I was like, fuck, those two worlds collided, Yep. And there was one guy, his name was Robert Pote, was one of the guys that got killed. I looked at that guy, and he was the only one in that group where I went, I think he's the only guy that looks like he might have been someone like me. You know what I mean? I looked at him and I was like, that could have been me. And I think that's why I had that emotion around that, because I looked at a guy like him and I thought, we've got the same friend group, like we got a couple of mutual friends. Like, I think I saw him in the piss a couple of times, maybe. We weren't mates, I didn't talk to him, but I think I remember seeing him, and I was like, he looks like a guy that's similar to me. So that's probably the only time that I ever consciously absorbed that idea. Yeah. But there was no fear.
Yeah,
I didn't have any fear. And I'm not saying that to be a tough guy. I've had fear later on in my career, but I didn't feel any fear because I was just young and underdeveloped, and I just didn't have that sense of my own mortality.
Is a portion of that down to the training as well? That's probably a question for both.
Maybe.
What about the idea that there's a bit of nobility in, because it's your job too, and everyone's fully aware that you could pass away doing your job. And there's a bit of like, yeah, nobility is probably not the right word, but if you go out,
There's a hero complex in there.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
so like,
sure.
you're like, okay, if I die doing this, then I'm okay with that's okay because I'm doing something in service or in the name of the nation or for my team or whatever. Like, is there also an element of that over the top?
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say there's a big part of that, right? I mean, you know, if what I was doing and by joining the military and going in overseas and trying to get involved in as many things as I could, if there's an element in there of wanting to be somebody and, you know, have a legacy of my experiences, then dying and being immortalised, so to speak, on a memorial somewhere on the news or whatever was probably, you know, was probably congruent with that too. You know, maybe if I die, then I'll be I'll be eternalised or whatever it is. I'd say there's a bit of that too. Yeah, yeah. But in terms of the training and whatnot, I don't think that I ever had an experience where I was so heavily engaged in the training that I had to disregard my own safety or anything. You know, it just, for me, it never happened that fast. It never happened in that short a period, that intensely, that I was so engrossed in these highly tuned motor skills that I, you know, couldn't think of anything else. I was always fairly conscious of everything that was going on. I've never had to go into that fight, flight, freeze, training takes over kind of thing. So I couldn't tell you. I'd say for me, no, but only just because of like a lack of exposure. Yeah, because I never had that experience.
So that deployment was mid 2012, 6 months. So you're looking at the end of 2012, start of 2013, coming back?
End of 2012.
Yep. What did you do from there? How was coming back? How did some of those things that stirred emotion in you go? Like, did you process them fairly well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did, right? I just scheduled another post, actually, the other day, and I was writing about, it was like a photo of me before I went to Afghanistan. And it was I think it was the last like military photo that I had before going overseas. And I was pondering on it because I was writing this post and I was like, what the fuck am I going to write about, you know? And then it was like kind of to the end, I was like, maybe I changed and I didn't realise it. You know, like I've gone away for this 6 months and had these experiences with this group of guys. So for us, nobody changed. We're all the same. Apart from if there was somebody that went through something very, very acute. Like I remember a few of our guys got exposed to a dude that had been blown up and then had to treat him and then he ended up dying, and there was a reasonably big incident in our little subunit. So maybe some of those guys changed a bit when they had some of those experiences, but I never did. So I think it was a gradual thing. So when I came home, I didn't feel any different. I felt like the same guy. But like I said, when I was writing that little post and I was reflecting, like I changed. I think I changed a lot. So when I got back, I was drinking more, definitely more aggressive. I don't know if depression is the right word, but I definitely went into some really low energy, low motivation funks for sort of extended periods, not sadness or anything like that. I did have a few moments of sadness when I was thinking about some of those guys that died and reconciling that. And I'm glad I'd went through that because I think it's what helped me process it, so it didn't hang around. But I'd say in my own experience and what I could observe in myself, I'd say no. Only on reflection, like a decade later, did I notice that anything had changed or that I was a bit different. Yeah. And I think road rage was a big one for me. I had a lot of frustration build up in that trip too, because there was a lot of things we wanted to do that we couldn't. After the attacks, you know, a lot of the stuff we were trying to do got cock-blocked by the command because they were, you know, very risk adverse. Yeah, and any time that I couldn't do something or there was something that happened and I missed out, I would take it very personally. you know, because I was just so hungry to do more, get involved, have experiences, you know, develop me, Tom Brown, and my character. I want to be this thing that I wanted to be. That was the biggest thing for me. So I think if nothing else, I had a lot of imposter syndrome when I came home, because I was like, fuck, you know, that was my shot to be whatever I wanted to be, and I didn't get it the way I wanted to. So I think I had a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of that pent-up energy and angst that I just directed towards drinking alcohol, you know, going out, you know, antics on the piss with the lads, a lot of road rage, and just in general, I think I had a lot of anger and aggression built up.
Which you sort of weren't aware of at the time? You're saying it's only on reflection now that you can sort of identify that?
Yeah. And I'm sure if I had asked some people, or even if I spoke to my parents, my siblings, or some friends, maybe they'd say, yeah, you did X, Y, Z, or we noticed a big change or whatever. But yeah, no, it was difficult for me to see at the time, because it's like anything else. If you're just there the whole time, it's gradual for you. So it's all incremental.
I was going to say, like, maybe that speaks to the importance of looking after your mates and noticing changes in your mates. But if all your mates are going through the same stuff too, it probably makes it a bit tricky, because you're all on the piss together. You know, you're all doing the same shit.
Yeah.
So it probably makes it tricky to identify that in someone else if you're also doing similar stuff as well.
100%, yeah. Because you've all been through the same stuff. Some guys are affected a bit differently. Like the kid that came in and died. Like I said, I never really gave a shit, you know. Like, I was like, oh, that's a bit sad, you know. But I didn't have an appreciation for what a 2-year-old was, or a 1-year-old, or you know, it's a war, kids die. But I remember my section commander, he had 2 kids, 2 young girls, or maybe at least one at that stage. And I remember he was really affected by it. He was like, had to go and have a few moments, and I don't think he was right there treating or doing anything, but he saw it kind of similar to what I did. But he was affected by that, and I saw the change in him a little bit. But, like, and I really judged him for it. I remember really being like, fucking get over it, mate. You know, we fucking knew what we were going to do and see over here, so fucking suck it up. But that lack of empathy was, again, probably something to do with my age and, you know, not having a fully developed brain, being a young bloke that just wanted to be a war hero. And I just didn't understand why people would be affected by things like that if you knew you were going to see it. So sometimes, yeah, you can see the change, but a lot of the times you don't. Or if you're all in that mode and you're like, you know, I'm a fucking warrior, I do this, we fucking kill people, or run around treating people, or, you know, whatever it is, putting out fires, that's just what I do. And if you're not conducive to that mission, then fuck you and fucking beat it, you know what I mean? Like, go and be weak on somewhere else. But now I've got a very different mindset toward that. Back then I didn't, you know, I was just like everyone else, you know, stop being fucking weak, just fucking get back to it, because that's just what we do.
So not sort of realising that in yourself and those behaviours, where did you go to from there? Was there more deployments coming up? Did you look at promotion? Sort of what did life look like for you after
Promotion.
you got back?
So I when I got back, I did I got a surgery on an inguinal hernia that I had prior to the deployment, which I hid. Obviously, you hide injuries. So I got that one fixed up. So I was on like restricted duties. They tried to make me go out on this field exercise at one point when I was still injured. Classic army, you know, just disregard medical advice and just do whatever the fuck they want. So I told a bunch of people to get fucked, in as many words. And then that, I think, was kind of one of those moments where I was like, yeah, I'm fucking done with this stuff. Like, we just went through this big deployment. You know, we lost some people. I thought there'd be a bit more of a, not like a break or a buffer, but some sort of understanding or empathy, or maybe a bit of like a bit of looseness with us. And that's where this sort of like rigid military system and me didn't really gel. Not that I was affected and I needed to go on some sort of stress leave, but I was like, hey, let me go home on leave to my fucking wife while I'm injured, and you want me to do this stupid exercise, and we just clashed. And then I think it was at around that time that I was like, well, I'm going to get out and then just go and join Special Forces, because I'd seen the SF guys run around doing some stuff when I was over there, and I was like, that was always my original plan, to go SF. I tried to go DRS, but I was too young, so I had to go infantry first. So the plan was that I'd just get out and put my application through the reserves and then apply and do selection, which I did and then pass, obviously. But that was kind of my whole plan when I got back was just get out and go SF and try and do it all again, but better.
So you transferred to reserves. Did you go home, back to Sydney?
I did. Yep. Yeah. There's a slightly longer version of this story, but I was actually officially no longer in the military, but I managed to sort of backdoor my way back in. So I left on bad terms. Obviously, when I leave something, I like to leave it in a fucking gigantic smouldering heap of ashes. So that's what I did, and then I didn't get kicked out, but I left on bad terms, and they basically said, "Don't fucking come back." And I was like, "Cool story, Hansel. I'm coming back." So I left, went down to Sydney, and then just called up a reserve unit, and then went back in, and then just like reactivated my military service, and then put my application in for SF through the reserve unit.
Did they, when you called them up in Sydney, did they not look you up and go, "Hey, Tom Brown"?
Nah. And this is what I mean. Like I had this strange career where I'd never been charged. I could have easily been charged many times, but it just never happened through circumstance, some sort of like break in the system whereby they charge somebody, whatever. I don't know what it was, and that was the same. Like nobody looked me up. It was the same when I left the unit at the very end of my career. Like I still, to this day, I still get emails from the reserve commando unit going, "Hey bro, you coming in?" Like, and I just don't reply. I'm like, "Fucking bro, I left in 2019, 6 years ago, man. Kidding me?"
Oh shit.
So, no one looked it up. No one found out. I just went in there and just Tom Browned my way in there.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
So straight into the reserve unit. How long did it take you to chuck in your app to go commandos?
Straight away. Yeah. I think I gave some sort of like half-baked speech to the officer that was running the unit. Again, in about as many words, and I think I even phrased it this way. I was like, "Hey man, I'm not here to do your stupid exercises. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to take part in your unit stuff. I just need an administrative process to put my application in for SF. That's all I want out of this place." And that's what I did. I just put it in. I don't even remember what unit it was or like who anyone was. I just went there and, "Can you sign this?"
You just needed a terminal to do your paperwork on.
Mate, I just needed a fucking living, breathing human body to sign the fucking form, and I got it. So,
in that respect, your like training, lead up training and stuff like that, you were just doing that on your own?
Yeah, I was out labouring, just doing like a labouring job, and I did that before I joined the reserves as well. So I was just digging holes out in the sun, lifting fucking wood and cutting stuff, nail guns or whatever. Having a good time doing that. Got married in the meantime, and then just training my ass off, man. Just getting up at 5 o'clock, doing early morning swims in cams in winter. Fucking running up hills, carrying packs. One man stores carries throughout the Waverley Cemetery in Clovelly where I was living with my parents. All that type of stuff, man. Gym sessions, whatever, and just preparing myself as best I could. Far better prepared because I had to go in 2010, but I was well underdone. So I pulled off that course. Ironically, I got through the hardest part of that course and then just drew a bit of heat because of my inexperience and immaturity. So I left that one. But yeah, I was far better prepared the second time. So yeah, went in much more physically prepared, a lot more experience, mentally understood what the challenge was and what I really wanted to go and do. So it was much better the second time. Yeah.
When was that? How long between chucking that app in at your reserve unit to the selection course kicking off?
Would have been a year max. Yeah, 6 months to a year. Wasn't long.
Yeah, nice.
Wasn't very long, yeah.
So obviously you got through selection, onto reinforcement cycle after that.
Yep.
Is that sort of the late roles? What does that sort of entail?
So that's all your specialist courses. So I applied for the 2nd Commando Regiment, so the Sydney-based direct action guys. Selection, everything you think it is, food, sleep deprivation, physical activity, mental test, etc., etc. 6 weeks, no phone, no sleep, no food, no fucking contact, whatever, getting smashed. And then, the reinforcement part is it's all your specialist courses to prepare you to go into the units. So, like your insertion methods, like amphibious boat stuff, parachuting. I think we did some mobility vehicle stuff, explosive, breaching stuff, advanced close quarter battle, bunch of urban stuff, roping courses. What else did we do? Fuck. Yeah, heaps of stuff like close quarter fighting. All those kind of cool courses. That was about 10 or 9 months worth of that, just back to back to back to back. That's a stressful, long process. Some courses are a bit harder than others. Roping was my fucking worst course by far. I'm not a roper at all by any stretch. So you guys do a bit of roping in the fiery?
Yeah, there is the unit that does that, and I'm with you, mate.
Not much of
I'm
it.
not a roper.
Yeah.
On that, mate, just, noting that you had the personality that you had, didn't like the army-isms and the, doing your own thing. Was the reasoning for getting out of, say, 3RR and going SF, did you think that wouldn't exist or would exist in a lesser capacity?
I knew it was still there.
Yep.
But I knew what SF was about. It was just doing the good stuff and not being so focused on that arbitrary, military process-driven stuff that we do for the sake of doing because you're in the military. Still exists. It is still the military. You still have a uniform. There are still grooming standards. There are still, fucking do with his mower.
Standard.
There's still things that you have to do, timings, places to be, etc., etc. Administration, all the bullshit that I hated. But I was far happier to do that knowing that the ratio of bullshit to the good stuff was
much better,
significantly different to the regular army.
Yeah, cool.
So, if I've got to do some sort of administrative process, it's like, hey guys, we have to do this thing, so let's just fucking do it and get it done so we can do the thing that we want to do. So I was happy to do that. Yeah.
Go into the cool shit, get it out of the way.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So that was much easier for you, much more palatable for you through that
big time
process.
Yeah. So I far enjoyed that more than fucking infantry. Yeah. I mean, even the infantry stuff made it was fun sometimes, but I just didn't particularly enjoy that job. I don't know, man. I didn't really enjoy just sitting out in the bush for weeks at a time. You weren't really encouraged to have a lot of initiative, and I don't know, man. Just something about it was a bit too rigid for me. Didn't allow me, that left and right of arc. Excuse me. That left and right of arc were a bit too narrow for me.
Yep.
There wasn't enough scope for me to discover how to do things and do them the way that I wanted to do them, which is why I loved SF, because it's a lot less strict in terms of we do things this way and this is how it's done. There are some things that aren't codified in that place, so they'll teach you how to do it, and everyone's got their different ways. But ultimately, as long as you understand the principles and what the outcome is and how you need to achieve it, what you need to achieve, the how is secondary to the why and the what has to be achieved. So there was a lot more lateral movement in there for me.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
It sounds like that would suit your personality much better.
Big time. It did. But again, community versus connection, they were definitely my people far more than infantry. But even then, I was still looking for something that the military couldn't give me.
Still like that externalizing that self-worth type thing, from the first trip?
Yeah. I felt like I had something to prove. I was so happy and excited to be there that I just went so hard, at work and then socially, that, some guys loved me. They were just like, oh man, this guy's intense. He just, he fucking goes hard, parties hard, whatever. Other guys that had been doing that kind of thing for a long time and that had families or whatever didn't appreciate the kind of character that I am. And I was a far, far looser dude back then than I am now. right? I understand now where to channel things, what's appropriate, what's not for some situations. Some behaviours that are not conducive to living a healthy, happy life. So back then I had very low inhibition, even without alcohol, and I had something to prove. So I was out at work and in my social life, just doing some wild shit. Nothing that I'll disclose on the podcast or anything like that. And also, especially in terms of my marriage and how it ended and whatnot, I'll protect the dignity of my ex-wife, and I won't tell too much of those details. I'll talk a little bit about it, but I really enjoyed that lifestyle, man. It was just hard and fast and fucking go, and like I said, some guys loved it, other guys hated it.
Yeah, right.
So I think I was a love me, hate me kind of guy.
Was that the whole time you're in the unit that you maintained that lifestyle?
For the most part, yeah. I slowed down a little bit toward the end, especially when I got into that, being really depressed and being in rehab for like a suicide attempt, that sort of stuff. That slowed me down partly just because of the way my days were structured and where I had to go, and I was in a new relationship toward the end, so I still had that intensity, but I think it was directed inward in terms of it just became more self-destructive in a purposeful way as opposed to as a byproduct of my behaviour.
Yep.
If that makes sense. I hope I'm not getting too fucking ethereal for you here.
No.
Yeah.
So you've finished that your Rio cycle, fully fledged commando operator after that?
Yep.
What like you said, you're living hard and fast and you're charging hard in all aspects. What happened in the unit? Was there much going on for you? Did you deploy again? What was going on in your world?
Yeah, so when we were on the reinforcement cycle, the Afghanistan campaign sort of wrapped up. It was about that 2013, 14, 15 that it was all sort of drawing down. Everyone's going back to TK, like I said, not in the patrol bases. They weren't doing like missions into Helmand and stuff anymore. So it was really drawing back into TK, getting ready for this exit, so the Afghan army could hold it for 2 weeks. So that campaign kind of wrapped up, and we're all a bit like, fuck, we missed it. You know what I mean? Like, damn it. But then the Iraq thing kicked off with ISIS and whatnot. So the Charlie Company spun up, went over there and did their first rotation, and they just started this regular rotation. Basically, it was just like swap out Afghanistan for Iraq, and they're just rotating. So I got off the reinforcement cycle. Half the guys went off to Bravo Company to then go to Alpha Company, to Iraq. And then the other half, myself, went to Delta Company, and we were on the Tactical Assault Group East, so the CT team. I think it was the day before we got our berets at the beret parade. They had the Lint Cafe siege. So the day we got our beret, it was the next day, like driving into work that day. It was, we heard that that guy got fucking, Man Monis, whatever his name was, got killed, and 2 hostages as well. So that was interesting, knowing that we were going on to team, but this big terrorist thing that happened. So we went in there and went straight onto team, and that was a really interesting year, man. That was heaps of fun. You do it like this. There's a lot of skill acquisition. There's a lot of work. You're doing a lot of reverse cycle stuff, more specialist courses, more skills. Everything you've done on the reinforcement cycle, you're doing more of. You got to learn the nuances of the company you're working with, your team.
All stuff that again suits that personality of yours, going charging hard and learning new stuff and
and I really enjoyed it, man. It was a great outlet for me and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. So in some ways that crazy was channeled into somewhere that was productive, and it was at work. But I think I still went pretty hard in the social aspect as well. So but yeah, man, it was a good year, dude. You're roping and you're flying around helicopters, you're shooting at the flat range, thousands of rounds. You're blowing things up, you're doing specialist courses. Just that the lifestyle of being in the unit is really awesome. You just got all these amazing people you're surrounded by. Yeah, it was a great year, man. Really enjoyed it.
Doing the cool stuff that you sort of hoped you'd be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that lasted, 12 months. You're in that counter-terrorism role?
Yep. Yeah, did that 12 months, then we handed over to the next guys, and then 2016 was our turn to go to Iraq. So, my company went over. I think it was half of us. Half went over to Iraq, and the other half were staying back, and we're doing some PSDs, like personal security detail. I always get confused with the acronyms, like personal security detachment, personal safety detail. I don't know.
Essentially, like close protection, right?
Better term. Close protection.
So just looking after, is that like dignitaries or like important people?
Yeah. Some like politicians, ambassadors, high-ranking military officials. Sometimes, like a celebrity or whatever going over some fucking tour or whatever. There's plenty of that. So yeah, they were sort of rotating through those PSDs while we were overseas in Iraq. And we had sort of two lines of effort. One of them was the supporting the Iraqi army with air support, so like dropping bombs. And the other one was training the Iraqi army, so enabling them to go out and then fight ISIS. And they've been doing it for a couple of years by then already. So we partnered with the CTS, the Counter-Terrorism Service. And if you've seen the photos of Iraq and they're the guys that wear the all black gear.
So they sort of like the Iraqis equivalent to like the commandos type thing? Or?
Yeah, for lack of a better term, I guess. Yeah. There's a lot of... Yeah, it can get a bit confusing, like whose unit you compare it to, and there's a lot of overlap. So, but yeah, for lack of a better term, that was like our equivalent over there. So we went out to Al-Assad Air Base. So landed in Baghdad, go out to Al-Assad, and I had a small team where I was, and then the rest of the guys were in Baghdad, training the army guys, training the CT guys, and then there was the strike cell style, just dropping bombs on ISIS, just fucking day in, day out. And I don't know if this is some sort of fucking secret. I doubt it, but I think they killed like fucking 4,000 dudes or something. They was just dropping bombs all the time, killing ISIS. That was never something that I did. I was semi-involved in a couple of very, very low-level, link in the chain kind of parts, but I was never in the strike cell. That was like a very specialist capability. You could do specialist courses, and that was not in my wheelhouse by any stretch. So the guys in the strike cell were like just constantly rotating in and out of there, day, night, just reverse cycle during the day, all the fucking time, dropping bombs. Yeah, and we're out training the guys at Al-Assad, which was interesting. It was fun, and it was the small camp life, man. We're making our own food, and there was I think there's only about fucking 13 of us out there, and 7 of us were commandos. The other guys were like some support guys. And normal camp life stuff, mate. You get the shits with each other after a while, and it's a bit long and boring, and then you form little fucking cliques, and then, got this guy's your best mate for a few weeks, and it's this guy, and then
vote someone off the island.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. It was a bit of that, but that was just... Yeah, I quite liked it, man, because we did what the fuck we wanted. We didn't shave out there, and oopsie, I was supposed to say that. We weren't shaving, just doing what we wanted. But we weren't going out with the dudes. There wasn't like a lot of combat going on, at least for us anyway. The Iraqi guys would do a little bit. But the most action we got was the base got invaded a couple of times. I think, I've forgotten how many times it was. 5, 6 maybe.
When you say the base got invaded?
Not like the barbarians coming over the walls, like, World War Z, that Brad Pitt movie. It wasn't like that, but it was like some small groups of guys had infiltrated the base a few times, suicide bombers, and the first time they got fairly deep in the base, they snuck through this dried up riverbed into this logistical hub, and were like fighting the Iraqi army and blowing themselves up in this little firefight, and we just kind of watched it from from this hill a little bit removed from it. And then that's happened a few times. We went out again we had Navy SEALs next to us. We went out a couple of times with them, kind of try to find these guys. And then that was about it, man. But there were a few other little incidents, like incidents of like one or two guys trying to sneak in, and the guys in the towers would shoot them, and we'd go up the next day for like an AAR just to see what the damage was and whatever. And yeah, it was interesting like that, but it wasn't one of those big box ticking things where I felt like a big hero and I could have proved myself in any sort of way. So, like, even, you know, both my deployments were interesting. I had great experiences, but they weren't the action movie that I was looking for. You know, I never kind of got that.
Were you still looking for that at that point? Like, even say, you know, the end of that deployment. And were you still looking for that external something, searching for whatever it was? Like, you still trying to scratch that itch?
Big time. Yeah, mate. I was still looking for that up until I'd left, you know what I mean? Like, even after I'd left, I had an opportunity to go overseas to Afghan again with One Commando. But, and I got really excited about it. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, like, this is the one, you know what I mean? This is the one I've been looking for. And I was going to go overseas again. But I was with my new partner, the one you met at the time, and so I was like, I don't want to fucking run off overseas chasing the dragon again to maybe get this big firefight that I was looking for that would maybe scratch the itch, or would I just do it and want to do more of it? Would I be happy with it? Would it be the one? I think in the end I was like, I got to stop chasing that fucking dragon, because you can just chase it forever. And I had many conversations with guys about the same thing. You know, they were like, I always thought everybody else was the big bad war hero, and I was the dude that, you know, everyone was laughing at behind my back. But even the other guys that I'd spoken to were like, yeah, you know, I did a bunch of cool things, and, you know, killed some guys or whatever it was. But, you know, I remember asking, like two in particular. One guy was like, it was never as righteous as you thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? It was never this big moment. It was just kind of happened. And another guy I was talking to, I was like, "What's it like, man? To like?" Because you know who the guys that have killed people or a lot of people, and, you know, one of them I was like, "Bro, what's it like to do it?" And he goes, "It's easy, man." He goes, "It's the hard part's getting there." He goes, "You've already done the hard part. The easy part's pulling the trigger." So, you know, I had to sort of take stock of that kind of thing and remember a lot of those conversations and go, maybe I do get to do it one day. Maybe I get to scratch that itch, and that's not the thing. And I've spent all this time looking for it, and then I come back and I want to do it again, or I hate it, or
you realise the outcome. Maybe you realise it's not what you thought it would be, or as grand or as fulfilling as what you thought it would be.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I think I've come to sort of understand that, like, let's just say if I did do it, right, and then these podcasts were just filled with my war stories about how awesome and amazing I was, I just don't think it goes anywhere. You know, like, what do I get out of that? Apart from the fact that I can maybe sit there at night and jerk off over how cool I am, like, I just don't think for me there would be any tangible, real, meaningful outcome that I would then use in my life. You know, a couple of good stories in a podcast maybe, but it's, you know, it doesn't help anyone, doesn't do anything. It's just interesting stories, you know. And again, not to take away from guys who go on podcasts and have done a lot of those cool things they wanted to do. I don't think a lot of those guys hang their hat on that type of stuff, but, like, I wouldn't say that I'm glad that I didn't do it, but I don't think I would have got what I was looking for. So I'm glad that I realised that and then stopped looking for it.
Because I was just going to say, would there have ever been a situation where you would have walked back from that mission or whatever and gone, that's what I was chasing? Or do you think it would have just kept going and going? And because, I mean, obviously, I'm listening to you. What you've done is massive to me. Or are you just constantly chasing, I guess, and I'm certainly not comparing the two, but like a heroin user, chasing that hit the whole time, and the hit's not as good as the expectation, but I'll keep going and eventually never get the hit thereafter, or is that the same? Because
I think it would be like that. I think it would be that sort of law of diminishing returns, right? And again, like, I can reflect on conversations I had with guys, because I used to say things like, "Oh man," like before we even deployed, I was like, "Fuck, I just want to, you know, classic young dude shit. I want to get over there, fucking kill everyone and be a fucking hero, blah blah." And I respect, and nobody ever tried to shut me down, but some guys were trying to give me like a bit of a realistic expectation. I remember one particular guy who had done a lot of things on his last deployment, which is a very big one for the unit that I was in, and then a little bit at the end of the previous one. But he'd done 3 deployments prior to that with SF, and he said he'd never fired his weapon on the first 3 deployments. It wasn't until the 4th one, and even in that one deployment, it was like right at the beginning and then right at the end. But it wasn't until that 5th deployment that it was like all the fucking time. So, yes and no, like, you know, maybe there's that big one that you'd feel very validated, but how long does that last? You know, what does it do for you? Because I think if you just put a whole bunch of guys like me in a room together, and we've got vastly varying degrees of experience, and, you know, whether it's combat or military training or whatever, from the outside looking in, we're the same guy. Bunch of commandos, you know, bunch of fireys. I don't think anyone is looking to make a distinction between how good you are versus how good you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, tell me how many stories you've got and how many stories you've got. You got 10, you got 5. Well, you're better. Like, I don't think that ever happens. So I don't think if I'd done more, I would be in any sort of better position in life that I am right now. You know what I mean?
It's an interesting point you make that no one really makes those distinctions except for you or for me. Or, you know, the individual, it comes from like must be some sort of insecurity or need to validate themselves or whatever to chase that. Like, it's not someone else judging you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the guys, like those stories I told you, they're like 0 out of 10 stories for the unit I was in. Like, no one's from that unit is listening to me tell that story going, Tom, what happened next? You know, they're like, whoa. They're just like, yeah, I did that 1,000 times, you know. Yep. But, you know, I've got mates of mine that have done everything that I've ever wanted to do plus more 1,000 times. And I'll sit with them sometimes and they're telling their story and I'm like, that's a fucking cool story, man. But I also don't look at them any different. I don't think that you're a better person than me. And they're not telling that story looking at me going like, you're a piece of shit because you didn't do it and I did. Like, they'll judge me by my character and I judge them by their character. So there are some guys in that place that have done all the things that I think they're shit dudes. And I don't want any part of them. There are other guys that didn't do anything and I think they're fucking awesome dudes. So no one's comparing war stories except for us, ourselves. You know what I mean?
Did you have that perspective when you were in there?
No.
Or is that upon reflection now that you've gone, actually that dude's not as cool as what I thought he was?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, and it's not like I see them as less now, but I see the reality of some of that stuff. Like prior to recording, we were talking about like the things I talk about now on my socials about like, you know, crisis and those internal conflicts and whatnot and the thought processes and the patterns and emotions. I talk about that stuff because I've seen what it looks like to the guys that I look up to. They're still the same guy. They're still the same awesome dude that is hard as nails that did the cool thing. And I still think they're awesome, but I know the trade-off. I know what happens in their personal life. I know the things that they go through in their mind or in their darkest moments in private. I know what that is. So it doesn't take away from what they've done and the things about them that I look up to, but I don't have that illusion now where I'm a piece of shit and everyone else is an amazing hero because I know what it looks like. You know, it was like when my curtain was lifted and like people would come and tell me things about their own experiences and I'm like, oh, wow, you're the guy that I was always looking up to and you know, like you told me the story about when you were in the fucking fetal position at your mum's house crying and I'm like, that's not who I thought you were, but you're happy to share that with me. So I still think you're an amazing dude and I love you to bits and you've got the maddest stories or whatever, but I don't look at their stories now and go, that makes up for what I lack. It's the same thing. We all just have our same experiences. Yeah.
Interesting point that you know your curtain's raised and it gave permission for other people to tell you their story too. So it's like that vulnerability breeds vulnerability or validation. You know, like allows someone else to share their experiences as well. And also that you said that you know you don't think any more, any less of them because of that. It's not like, oh, I now know the reality and now I think any less of you. Like, you don't think they're any less cooler because they've struggled.
Yeah. It only makes me feel more comfortable in myself to know that we have common experiences, right? And like I was saying, again, pre-recording, once you break that barrier down and you understand that you've got this really common human experience and it's not all about the war stories and the cool stuff. They just want to connect with other humans and they want to know who you really are, and you want to connect on that human level. I don't look at people the same way now. Like, I don't feel the need to be like, oh, tell me the fucking thing that you did. Like, did you shoot that dude? Or tell me the fire that you went to or whatever. Like, tell me your best story. Like, the way I interact with you guys prior recording and after this and on the phone or during the podcast, that's how I judge you and gauge you guys. So that's kind of how I see people now, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely have respect for people's story and their experience, and I love hearing it, and I still get a little battle fat from hearing some cool things, but I'm not like, you're a better person because you've been in more gunfights than me. Yeah.
All right. That's it for part 1 of our chat with Tom Brown. In the next episode, we pick things up with his transition out of the Defence Force and the creation of Origin K9 and the Origin Initiative. We'll talk about rebuilding from the ground up, finding purpose beyond the uniform, and turning struggle into something that helps others. Make sure you're following the show so you don't miss part 2 when it drops.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please show your support by subscribing, liking and rating the podcast on your listening and social media platforms. We are always looking to improve what we do. If you have feedback, suggestions for further guests, topics, or would like to be a guest yourself, please contact us via Instagram.